Hey out there, this is Wakeangel2K1 bringing at you my first Titans Return review. This is the Walgreens exclusive Brainstorm with Autobot Teslor, who is his Titan Master. Now, I might slip a few times and say the word Headmaster because, that's what they called them when I was a little kid, so, don't jump down my throat if I get the terminology wrong. And yes, sometimes I get Metroplex and Fortress Maximus mixed up. They're both huge hulking robots that are about the same size. Just one has a gaudier color scheme. Come on, cut me some slack, folks. Anyway, I was actually surprised that there's no Walgreens sticker on here. There's always that silver Toys R Us exclusive sticker for Toys R Us exclusives, or the Target logo sticker, or, this is a Walgreens exclusive, but it doesn't actually say anywhere on the packaging. It does still have that really cool artwork where they show the head actually using a jet thruster to land onto the torso of the figure, which is always very fun. You get a little picture of the vehicle mode as the robot mode, as the toys packaged in robot mode. Then we look at the back, and we see other figures and how this gimmick is supposed to work with the head swapping thing. And you got the figure posed, although I am almost certain that that's not actually a picture of the toy, but rather the 3D render of the CGI model. And there's a little bio there. Apparently, Brainstorm is already a genius, but when Teslor combines with him, he's even more brilliant. So yeah. Now, I would actually have preferred the Voyager class Brainstorm from a couple years ago, where they wanted to see if the Headmaster gimmick was still viable. But this is actually a really good toy for a deluxe, and it's based off of the Blur mold. Now, Blur was my favorite of the Wave 1 Headmasters, because Titan Masters, see, I'm already doing it, because, Blur, he looks awesome, and the frame of it looks so much like G1 Blur. But there were just two things. One is that the American version was just so overly blue. The Takara version had a better color scheme. But then, there's no way that I could possibly love another Blur figure, because I already have this guy. Say what you will, I'm never gonna find a better Blur than this. This Blur is just too awesome for me. Sure, with the Super G1 accuracy, Titans Return Blur tempted me, but I just could not consider anything better than this as far as Blur is concerned. I know your mileage may vary. You may like the G1 accurate Blur way more than the tall, lanky runner's Blur that I love. You are perfectly valid in that opinion. I totally understand if you like the more G1 accurate Blur. The fact that I prefer animated Blur is entirely my opinion. I understand. The Titans Return Blur is awesome. The Takara version of it is even more awesome. But I just like this one better. That said, I was really happy that I actually get to play with this Blur mold. So let's get Brainstorm out of the packaging and take a look. Okay, Brainstorm comes with this really cool trading card. It's nice and printed on really good feeling dense cardstock. It has that little corners cut off look, which I guess because it looks a little bit techier, but whatever. On the back you see it actually has some purposes and having the tech specs on there. So you can see he's categorized in strength, speed, intelligence, and firepower, with the red lines being what Brainstorm can manage on his own, and the blue lines being what Teslor adds once they're combined. And as you can see, Teslor gives him a huge intelligence boost. So, enough looking at a trading card, let's take a look at the awesomeness that is the Brainstorm figure itself. Okay, remember when I threw huge criticisms at the Warrior Windblade toy because it felt so underpainted? Well, I have no such problems with Brainstorm. He has a lot of paint, which really makes him look just great. It's been pointed out that this whole big nose cone thing, that's all one chunk of gray plastic with a huge amount of paint slopped over it, which is actually kind of impressive. Maybe pick out the guns, but you painted this huge area and you couldn't afford to put a little bit more black on Windblade's chest detailing, or give her a blue crown on her head to make her face look less undifferentiated? Really? But, you know, I'm not gonna rant about poor Windblade when I have a Brainstorm in front of me. So yeah, the figure just looks great. He has detailings on him that look like stickers, but if you feel it, they're actually tampagraphing, which is really cool because tampagraphing doesn't peel the way that stickers eventually would. Fantastic. We get a zoom in. We see he has a transparent cockpit with an Autobot sigil inside of it. And the cockpit can open. That being, you know, since being part of the gimmick that these guys will accept riders when they're in vehicle mode. And the head is really up there. It's like, it has a nice ball jointed expressive range. I like, he can tilt it inquisitively. He can look around. He gets a little bit of up and down. You know, like, it's a good head attachment. I like it. And the fact that it's a little robot folded up is actually not as invasive as you'd think it would be. I mean, you can see a little bit that maybe that would suggest that there's some little feetsies there, but, you know, all folded up, it's pretty good. Now, build quality on this toy is fan-tucking-fastic. I mean, every joint on him feels so... it just feels so great. Everything on him is tight enough that you don't feel anything is going to flop and take him out of a pose, but it's not so tight that it gets creaky and scary. Like, all of his joints work fantastically, and he has great posability. He has 90-degree elbows, he has bicep swivels, he has wrist swivels, his wings can articulate to get out of the way of stuff. These things don't articulate, but they're small enough that they don't get in the way too much. Like, look at that. Look what he can do. He can shield his face with his arm. Like he's covering his eyes from something that's too bright. That's really cool. He has a waist joint. He has ball jointed hips, which are the only part of him that feels even moderately loose, but they're still perfectly tight. I mean, they only feel loose in comparison to the rest of his own joints, but they're still significantly tighter than most other ball jointed hips I've messed around with. He has a knee, gets beyond 90 thanks to the way it's sculpted, and of course a thigh swivel. Little tiny bit of foot articulation, it's mostly for transformation, but you can have him do an I'm taking a step forward stance because of it. I'm sure, like, I can feng shui something with the arms to get him to balance with his foot like that. Yeah. So yeah, everything here is just great. This figure has wonderful articulation. So, great articulation, great build quality, great posability, because posability and articulation are two different things. And, you know, great deco. So, every single aspect of this thing is great. I can already wholeheartedly recommend him, and I haven't even transformed it yet. Okay, now, there is one complaint I have about the line-wide gimmick. And that is, when you take the Titan Master off, what you're left with is a headless robot. Now, do you remember Minibot Qantas here? I got her from that Shapeways store. Well, when you take her head off, underneath you can fold out a secondary head. You know, like this is Nautica's head, and then when you fold it in, you put on her headmaster. So she has her own head, and then her headmaster can join with her. I mean, it's implied that Brainstorm is independently sapient, and the head that attaches is just an enhancer. So where's Brainstorm's own head? And you know, all of them are like that. I really wish that they would just like they had figured out some way to have them have their own heads, which you would fold away and then plug in a headmaster. The headmaster, let's take a look at him. the Titan Master, I told you I'm gonna be mixing these terms up, has a very simple transformation. Let's zoom in. Whoa, whoa. Gotta tighten that screw. There we go. You just simply unfold, unfold, and there you go. Ta-da! Look at that. His face actually has quite a bit of detailing. You see, he has a mouth, he has a visor. They painted his little faceplate in. He has a gray torso and teal arms and legs. Let's see. This is literally the first time I'm messing with this toy, so oof. Let me take it off camera so that I can work the tightness out of those joints. Okay, it turns out there's itty bitty little tabs on the back of his arms that peg into slots on the head, so you can't get the arms out until you pull them forward a bit. There we go. So he can actually stand with his arms outstretched a little bit so he doesn't look like he's always standing straight at attention. And, you know, he has a ball-jointed little neck, which gives him some expressive tilt and looking around. I mean, it's Brainstorm's head articulation, but on a tiny, tiny scale. He can put his arm up. It gets stopped by sculpting at about 90 degrees, so I would have liked if he could put his arms over his head like he's doing a Superman flying pose, but whatever. And he has one solid little mono leg. This is probably to keep his legs from falling apart at this tiny scale, because seriously, like, it's barely longer than the second knuckle of my thumb. And you can afford him sitting articulation because the knees have a 180 degree range. So they fold upwards to make him a head, and they fold downwards so he can sit. And sit he does. Yeah, he's so tiny that the single screw that holds the face in place is like a giant belly button on there. Proportionally, it's as big as the spark crystal chamber on the basic class RC figure I have. Now I have heard that you can get alternate faces from Shapeways, and I might actually do that because I would love to have an RC or Miranda head. Not Miranda. Yeah, you know, I'd love to have other heads. I'd love to have heads that don't have characters yet, but maybe I'll wait into later waves and see what they come up with. All right. Here's what the Titan Master looks like when it's standing next to Brainstorm itself. I like to think that Titan Masters are about the size of humans, and the Transformers themselves are the size of Transformers. Let's push all that back because it's starting to zooming out far enough is getting my living room in there. Okay, so let's transform this guy back into a head for just a moment. It's actually fun how easy that is. I've heard that the line tends to have problems with the head not wanting to attach properly, but on this Brainstorm, great. Absolutely no floppiness in that head. No bobbleheadedness at all. Alright, so this was separate in the packaging. That's because it actually comes off. You do not have to remove it for the sake of transformation, so I'm not going to count it as parts forming. But it is a piece that can be turned into a weapon. He can hold it in his hand. Although it's so gigantic and huge, it kind of prevents him from bending his elbow. So you can instead put it onto the peg hole in his forearm and turn it into a big old shield with blasters on it. And thanks to his great arm articulation, you can actually make it look, you know, really, really good. Yeesh, I don't even have to really put much effort into posing this guy, and he's already posing. Also, accommodating the Titan Master gimmick one last time, nope, that's folded all the way. There is a little thingy here. which is tightly pegged in, and I expected that to be a little easier to stand. It's supposed to be able to stand up and be like a little boat or like a sled, so that you can take your little Titan Master, put his arms up as if he's steering. Come on, Titan Master. These ball joints in his shoulders are really tight. And let's see. I believe you just kind of sit him in there. Yeah, he clips into place very nicely in there. And now you have a little tiny Titan Master driving a boat. You got a little man in a boat. Or a sled. Or an inside-out gun. Whatever you want to call it. Cute. Okay, I think it's been long enough. Let's get Brainstorm into vehicle mode. Real quick, check out the instructions. It's one long, thin strip. Like it's a scroll. I'm used to these like being printed on A4 paper, like a little mini poster. This long scroll is just a weird format for instructions for me. And here's vehicle mode. It's Blur's car mode with some little wings attached. But, you know, and I know a lot of people on the internet have given it guff about the partially open cockpit. But, that's a Titan Master. He's a Cybertronian. He don't need oxygen. Look at him in there. You little man driving your car. I haven't seen that since the Human Alliance line. So it's nice to... It's actually kind of nice. I like that translucent yellow window. It looks cool. So yeah. The wings are a little stubby. Like I said, the Thrilling 30 Voyager class Brainstorm, which looked like a Star Fox's R-Wing in vehicle mode, was a lot cooler of a vehicle, but this is still nice. Perfectly serviceable. It looks good. The color scheme is very reminiscent of the G1 toy. It does everything it has to, and as far as a repaint goes, it's really, really nice. And look at how well it rolls. I don't think I've ever seen a toy roll so well on such tiny little wheels. Woo wee, woo wee. And as you can see, I've pegged in the gun on the side where those peg holes are. You can kind of take that off. I believe, is there a mounting point on the bottom? Ah, yes. There's a peg on the bottom, which you can then put the gun there. And now you have some more symmetry. Look at that. Now you have like 3 little guns in the front. And it still rolls. So that is Titan Returns Brainstorm. If you have a Walgreens near you, I'd recommend it. It's a fantastic little toy. I mean, I never actually bought any of the Titans Returns figures, but I took a very thorough look at them all in their packaging, and I actually did get to play with a Scourge figure, and I gotta say, this is my favorite. I mean, it might be because it's the Blur mold, which I consider to be the best of the first wave, and it's like been remolded into another character, so I don't have to feel guilty about having 2 Blurs. So, I mean, everything I love about it's in there. I love this thing. It's a great little toy. Now, I just really wish that they would have made some other Titans Return figures, homaging some more of the Headmasters, like during the Headmaster season, RC was a Headmaster. This could have been a perfect opportunity to have yet another RC toy. But what about Minerva? I mean, think about it. You could have made a Headmaster RC and then remolded it into a Minerva, or vice versa. You know, like Minerva, the Headmaster Jr., the very first female Transformer to ever get an official toy. Like, that was kind of big back in the day. I mean, sure, it may have just been a Nightbeat repaint, but it was a female character that got made into a toy. And in like I think it was still the late 80s or possibly the very early 90s. Come on, I totally would love an homage of that. It would have been so great. Besides, like, you got, like, Hasbro's been pretty good on finally integrating the female cast into the toy line, like giving us RC, Chromia, Windblade, and then creating an all new female cast for Combiner Wars with Victorion, and then the Takara Decepticon female combiner. So you know, I thought finally we're getting a good spread of female characters, and then they come out with the Titan's Return gimmick, and like none of the new Titan Headmaster figures are female, despite the fact that there legitimately were female Headmaster characters in G1. And now I'm ranting. Okay, so this has been Wakeangel2K1, strongly recommending Brainstorm, and I am signing off.